Thank you so much. Our first question, how do you feel we as teachers can help create the shift in mindset our planet needs?
Say the question one more time.
One more time. How do you feel that we as teachers can help shift the mindset our planet needs?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind as a teacher, myself, is just that it's present, that the crises that we're in, the ecological crises, and all the kind of the related issues to ecological and climate degradation, that we're not pretending it isn't there. The kids know it's there. And when we first built this project, and one of the things that motivated me, we built the project more than 10 years ago, is that nobody was talking about it. And I felt like as an educator, kind of pretending that it wasn't happening to this world that the kids were going to inherit was somehow a real disservice to kind of preparing them for the future that they're facing. So I think inside, as Rob was talking about, inside any discipline that we're teaching, there are ways in which these issues are present. And so doing our own work educationally to be aware of what those are and to find the connections is also an active way to kind of bring that to the classroom. Not to scare them, but to really explore what's happening and what can be done about it, and be empowering as much as possible.
I remember you also saying early on that one of your students, after a performance of Crossroads, came up to you and just thanked you for talking, for actually bringing it into the public sphere. It can feel risky. It certainly felt risky to us, and at times it still does, and I imagine for lots of other folks, perhaps some of you here, it might also feel risky to be more open, whether inside the classroom or just in your daily lives. But we're not going to get anywhere without taking a little risk.
I'll just say, too, that I teach a class for fine arts and humanities students at Utah State University on this whole topic of this suite of ecological and social crises that are just fully interconnected. And one of the responses I get pretty regularly in some form or another is kind of along the lines of, until I took this class, I thought I was crazy because none of the adults in my life are talking about any of these issues. And so more so than being traumatizing, which I mean the information is difficult, but as Rebecca said, they already are, there's a lot of angst around these already. They come into our classrooms that way. And what I've heard many times is that their sort of angst is validated. Oh yeah, I'm not crazy. Even though most of the adults in my life aren't talking about these things, it turns out I'm not nuts. They're real and they're big, and we need to be thinking about them. So just being a place, having a classroom in which we can talk about these is, I think, hugely important.
Thank you so much. And thank you, all of you, for submitting questions. We have so many, we won't be able to get to all of them. But I'm going to go ahead and read some of our top voted questions. Can you tell us more about the circular paintings that were shown during the music? What is their meaning? How were they selected? Who was the artist?
We were very fortunate to partner very early on with a wonderful visual artist, Rebecca Allen, and so those are her paintings that you see. And that particular type of painting is known as a tondo. So I think some of the significance is that she has found great inspiration in the natural world in her work, and is greatly concerned about the climate crisis, and so a lot of her work reflects that, and so that was meaningful to us as a way to bring another art form into the project. One of the things we struggled with very early on when we were developing the project, as Rebecca said over 10 years ago now, was how to make it not just seem like, oh, they play some music and then he talks, and then they play some music and then he talks, and kind of make it feel a little bit more like a cohesive thing, something that was kind of artistic on a number of levels. And so in addition to, of course, visuals that share facts and visuals that are, photographs that are, really clearly depicting something we loved. The beauty of her imagery and the way that it evokes, sort of a sensation of being in the natural world.
There are some performances of Rising Tide where we've been lucky enough to pair the performance also with an exhibition of her paintings, including some of the ones that are included in the visuals here. So that's a really enriching experience for all of us when we've been able to do that.
Great. Please tell us about how this project was initiated. Was it funded by a grant? Whose brainchild was it? It was exquisite. Thank you.
Well, I'll start the story, and then I'll turn it over, because it really has been a truly collaborative endeavor. I was giving lectures on climate change, even backing up further, I spent a couple of years at a research post in England at a university, and I was going to lots of chamber music concerts. And I was working in physics, a field called quantum optics, the quantum mechanical behavior of light. But I would go to these chamber music concerts. There were tons of venues, and so I would go. And I was always getting shushed because I was rushing around in my backpack for a pencil to start taking notes, because the music was just unlocking my thinking on all these physics puzzles I was working on. So fast forward a few years, and I'm at Utah State University, and I've been giving public climate change lectures, and it feels like the information, the audiences are understanding it. It's a pretty understandable story, distilled to its essence, but weren't really feeling it, because the audiences were like many of us. We have pretty comfortable lives, jobs, homes, living in safe communities, and food and all of that. And so you hear that the world is on fire, and you're on the hairy edge, but then you walk back out into your life, and it doesn't feel like it exactly. And this was, again, even 10 or 12, well, almost 15 years ago now. And so I just remembered having these really powerful experiences with chamber music, and lo and behold, at Utah State University, we have this professional string quartet that's been hired by the Kane College of the Arts to serve as the string faculty. And I'm going to their concerts, and I just thought, well, I wonder what it would be like to bring an audience into a venue, but then not let them bring all their little puzzles in with them like I used to do. Push those puzzles out of their heads with some compelling information and some powerful imagery, and then unleash some powerful music on it and see what happens. So that was the basic idea. The first person I approached was Anne, so maybe I'll let her take over.
So Rob got in touch and he said, I've got this idea I want to run past you, and I might be crazy, and you're probably going to say no, but he explained the premise that he just shared with you. And he said, is there any chance that you would be interested in doing this? And I said, well, sure. Because I knew it was a topic that all four of us felt very strongly about. And we're always pretty game for an adventure. But I think what struck me right away was the notion that, we as a string quartet, mostly what we do is we go around and we play concerts for people. And that's an amazing privilege. And the way that we can communicate through our music is something that we're deeply grateful for. But the idea that we could take that even a step further, to bring people kind of into this world of contemplation, as Rob was saying, to bring a deeper message, to bring a more specific message to people, was really attractive. And so we said, sure, count us in. And then kind of a grand experiment began, because none of us really knew exactly how we were going to do that. Early on, we used existing music written for the string quartet. But it became clear pretty quickly that ideally, we needed a piece of music that was written specifically for this project. And a mutual friend shared with us the name of a composer, Laura Kaminsky, who's somebody who had written already on ecological themes, and put us in touch with her. And I think Rebecca sent her an email, and they were on the phone within half an hour, because she called and said, I am really interested in this. We had no idea how we were going to pay her for this piece that we were commissioning, but she said, don't worry about it, you'll figure it out, and I'll get to work. So Rob sent her a graph. Probably the first time she had been sent a graph to write a piece of music for a string quartet. But the idea was he had this structure in mind. He wanted to talk about the Earth systems. He wanted to talk about, what's amazing about our planet. And so he had already in mind the idea of talking about water, talking about the bios, talking about food and food production, and then talking about society. So that's essentially what he handed her. And then she came back with this incredible string quartet called Rising Tide, which you heard today. And so as far as this, part of that question was about funding. We did, as I said, we didn't know how we were going to pay for it. We certainly weren't going to be paid for it ourselves, but we did go to Utah State University. We did received several grants, actually, that supported the commission and supported the premiere of the project, which happened at Utah State in the fall of 2012. What we didn't expect was that the project would go on to have the life that it has had. It really was kind of an experiment. We thought, well, we're going to do this at our home university. But in the meantime, our manager, the Fry Street Quartet's manager, said, wow, this is pretty incredible, and started to offer it as something to presenters. And gosh, we've done it in 3 different countries by now, and we're up to how many performances?
I think this one is 59.
This is number 59, and we never expected that to happen, but audiences were eager for something like this. Did I miss anything?
I think we have time for just one more question. How can we make these ideas non-political?
That is the million-dollar question.
Well, I know some of these guys are going to say a couple of things that are really worth hearing, but I just want to preempt it with one thing. The ideas should be political. Politics is how we collectively address risk. They shouldn't be partisan. But we have to have them, we have to be discussing them publicly and discussing what we're going to do about it. And that's what, in its best form, that's what we do with politics, with policy. So, yeah.
I would also say that just, kind of staying in this, the space of facts about the natural world, which are plentiful, data, and also kind of looking for points of connection, things that we care about. We care about the vibrancy of the Great Salt Lake, which, we're getting a little bit of a respite from the worry because of the big snowpack, but it's in trouble. The Colorado River is also something in our area. That there's research being done in our, in the state around those issues too. And then, yes, it shouldn't be partisan. Our method for collective policy action is, in fact, politics. And I think even just remembering that's supposed to be a working tool is may be useful.
I've also heard you talk about this notion of bringing it into the artistic space, though.
Yeah. Also, kind of, one of the things about this project that also appealed to me was exactly that. Like, the concert hall is a neutral space, hopefully, a place where communities can come together to experience things without a kind of a partisan agenda. And classical music often gets a pass, It's like somehow supposed to be good for you, and it's abstract enough that, so you can write a rip-roaring piece about, the Vietnam War or something, and it's classical. Anyway, that doesn't really answer the question in a helpful way, I realize. But using artistic expression and having honest discussions and having space for reactions and then creative expression can also be a really effective way to kind of keep it out of, talk radio and news kind of sphere. Reclaim it.
I have 2 thoughts to share. One is that one of the challenges I think in having discussions really with anyone who's even a little bit skeptical about the whole notion of sustainability issues is that there are various folks out there who will claim to be cherry picking. Oh, the scientists, they're just cherry picking data. And there's a website called skepticalscience.com, which takes you through many of the claims that can be refuted pretty easily. And in fact, there are three different sort of levels of detail. There's a relatively quick kind of answer to why this particular claim has no basis in fact or reality, and then there's a slightly more involved version of that point made, and then there's like a really very detailed explanation as to why this has no basis. So it's hugely useful just to get oneself educated, and also if you, or certainly for myself, if I found myself in a conversation with somebody who is not just throwing away the entire notion, but is actually honestly engaged and maybe a little bit skeptical, it's a good thing to pass on to somebody else as a place to learn a little bit more. And the other thing, which is both absolutely 100% real and slightly, it's a little bit of an unfair tactic, is to use the children. We are bequeathing this world, and the decisions that we make today and tomorrow and the next week and the next month have enormous impacts on all of these young kids that we love, that are in our lives, whether they're our own or our somebody in our family, in our community. All of these children are going to grow up into the world that we hand them, and then that will continue on. And if I'm saying to somebody, I would really like to not have to deal with the diseases that I'm facing because of air pollution or because of water pollution, but if I'm more concerned about the children in my life moving forward, it's really hard to argue against that. Skeptical Science.
Skepticalscience.com. Fabulous for getting past misunderstandings about climate change. Tons of information, very well organized, and yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking a few moments to answer a few of our questions. There were many more, and I apologize we couldn't get to all of them. Possibly we'll try to answer more of them and maybe send them up in a follow-up question, but I'm going to turn the time over to Callie Phlox to close for us.
Can I say one thing? I just want to thank all of you for your work.
Thank you.
Wow, what a wonderful 2 days, and you have another session left. So excited for what's ahead of you today. Teachers, in the BYU Arts Partnership, we have decided to take on some hard topics. Last year, we took on cultural appropriations in Native American communities, and we had wonderful Native American artists here with us, and we began to open doors into communities and into hearts and into ways of knowing and being together that change things. Today, we took on some other hard topics, and yesterday, we started with Ben Abbott yesterday, and then had Mary House Surface yesterday afternoon, and practiced the piece of really thinking thoughtfully and deeply. And today, we were artistically transported once again into some pretty hard truths. And what I know is that the arts can teach hard things. And the arts allow us the opportunity to emotionally process difficult truths. They also bring us the creativity to reach solutions. So we're bringing this information into our arts conference because we believe that the arts transform people, transform communities, and can change the world. I also believe, teachers, that because you are the heart of your schools, you are the heart of your communities. And when you have hope and when you have action, we can make results in making a difference. I hope this is the beginning of conversations. I hope this is the start. I hope we can move forward together and continue convening at this conference annually and the many other teacher workshops that we do, and that in our professional worlds, we can be a voice to make a difference. I think from the very first time this conference started 17 years ago, what I've said at the closing session, every session, is something I believe in the depths of my heart. You are the most important thing in your classroom to improve and change student learning. It's not about the smartboard, it's not about the technology, it's not about the curriculum. It's how you bring the information with your heart, your integrity, your good questions, your thoughtful thinking. You are the most important instrument for student learning in any school building. And we are here to invest in you, elevate you, and we hope that we have done that. We hope that you go out transformed and changed. And as Ben said yesterday, we hope your relationship with this planet you live on has changed. We hope your relationships with each other have changed. And we hope to continue these relationships for a very long time with important actions for the results that we all seek, which is a better world for us and our children. Hopefully, we will see you all back here next summer. Alpine District School, most likely. I think it's June 4th and 5th, the same week next summer. We'll see you then. Thanks so much.